And good morning, everyone. It is so nice to see so many familiar names in our participant list today. And let's get my screen set up here, and here we go. So welcome to our session of Work-Based Learning, Students and Teachers in a Virtual Environment. With me today, again, I'm Joanne Hudak from the National Center for College and Career Transitions, or NC3T, that's a long name. My co-panelists today are Dennis Verga, Director, Monroe Career and Technical Institute, and Michael Herrera, Assistant Director at Upper Bucks County Technical School. So very, very happy to have our CTE partners helping me today. So I think many of you know a little bit about NC3T, but if not, we are a national company, and our vision is, I think, the vision that we all share: every learner with a dream and a plan, and a community with a capable, ready workforce. We have had the really great honor of working in Pennsylvania through the Pennsylvania Department of Ed and Bureau of Career and Technical Education for a number of years now. We're very proud of the relationships we've built and the work that we have done supporting high quality CTE programs, pathways development, employer engagement, and other types of technical assistance. So you read a little bit about our session. I think that's why you're here. And COVID really, the COVID pandemic brought many things to a halt, and in particular, a lot of those rich work-based learning experiences for students and educators came to a halt. And yet we recognize that despite the challenges of the pandemic, it was critical that we continue to make those connections between classroom learning, career readiness. And our school districts and career technology centers in Monroe and Bucks County really led the charge by successfully developing virtual models for both teachers and students in 2020, 2021. And so we're hoping to share the models with you today. You'll hear from Dennis and Michael about their participation and some of the unique things they're doing also virtually using social media. And the actual PowerPoint, I will drop it in the chat at the end of the session, and it does have some of the models, and you can my email will also be there, and I can gladly share any information we have, because that's the power of building good programs, is the relationships we have in Pennsylvania. So one of the highlights of our work in Pennsylvania is what we call the Pennsylvania Regional Career Pathways Models. And these are career and technology centers that, through the Technical Assistance Program, are taking a lead in organizing these kind of a regional approach to career pathways. And excuse me, and these partnerships, now some of them are in their 6th, 7th year, really are approaching this work-based learning in really innovative ways to engage our employers and our students, our parents, our community, and supporting career readiness programs for our kids. So this is just a little map of our career pathways partnerships. We have probably the most mature partnerships are up in Erie County and in Berks, my little stars here. And yesterday, I think some of you might have heard from Central Pennsylvania Career Pathways Partnership with Director Jennifer Hain from Sun Tech, who is leading the partnership in that region. And she did a excellent job presenting their profile of graduate. So I love seeing our partnerships being active in this great conference. So today, though, you'll be hearing again from Monroe and Bucks County. I did want to also put a little plug in on the side that we also have 2 new sites that are requesting technical assistance, and that's Pottstown School District. Obviously, they're a comprehensive program, and Indiana County Technology Center. So happy to bring them on board. So let's get into the meat of the program. So the Monroe partnership is called the Monroe Career Pathways Coalition. And back in 2019, 2020, they had a grant was awarded through the Poconos County's Workforce Investment Board to fund a Teacher in the Workplace program. Through the coalition, again, because there's membership of all districts in that coalition, they were able to recruit 70 teachers from the Monroe County four school districts in the Career Technology Center and plan some really wonderful 3-day academies focusing on pathways. Unfortunately, they were planned for summer 2020, and we all know what happened to that summer. So that program was suspended. However, there was a grant extension. A little bit about the Teacher in the Workplace Academy. I'm breaking PowerPoint rules. I have a lot of text here, but this was the description that teachers received, and I should say educators because there were counselors, other school folks. Really, they were 3-day counselors to help them really make those connections in their classroom and in their context, in their buildings and districts, their systems related to career readiness for all students. So they did receive a compensation for the academies, and so that was the model. So obviously we had to pivot. I think pivot is the word that we all learned in the pandemic, and we came together. And again, when you think about the regional career pathways partnerships, they're not only school districts, but they are your workforce development entities, economic development, business and industry partners, nonprofits like the United Way. Everybody kind of came together and brainstormed, how can we do this? Because this is critical. So we took the same approach, the same vision and mission and goals and compensation. And we developed 6 sessions that ran from October 1st to December 1st. And it was a weekly model. I think we had a bi-weekly in there once due to holidays. And what we did was we created a 1.5-hour, what we call a face-to-face via Zoom, similar to what we're doing today, after school. And there was definitely pre-work. We had 1.4-hour learning modules. So for each week prior to the session, they conducted a range of assignments. So for example, when we were about to hear from the Career and Technology Center, part of their homework was to do a little reading about Career and Technology Center, because we had elementary to 12th grade educators and some who really maybe were not as familiar with career and technical education or workforce development, et cetera. So there was a learning module. And again, I'm happy to share any of that information with you should you be interested. So that was kind of the approach. And the important piece was getting the right people on the Zoom meetings. So we collaborated with our experts. So Dennis Verga is always so helpful with the partnership and making connections. He's able to say, yes, here's an engineering firm and here's a contact person with manufacturing, et cetera. So we reached out to Dennis. Also, our career link, our career link sits on the MCPC Executive Committee, in addition to the Pocono Mountains Economic Development Corporation. And we use those expertise to identify, potential speakers with a career pathway focus. In Monroe County, they are using, the 5 broad pathways that we, learned about many years ago. I think when many of you worked with Mike Thompson, I think Betty's on here today, when we looked at, kind of taking the clusters and breaking them into pathways. So this is what Monroe chooses to use. So we wanted to identify speakers related to that particular pathway focus. So I'm just going to take you through what the weeks would look like. So don't want to read to you, but each week had a theme. So week 1, we really wanted to start with a sense of urgency. Because if you think about, a lot of educators, myself included, I was a Spanish teacher when I started. I did not have a deep understanding of career trends and employment demands. You know, I learned that when I became a high school principal with career and technical programs. I immersed myself in that world to, you know, to really understand, you know, the richness of career and technical education. So there was a lot of aha moments in that session. And you could see our speakers were from the Economic Development Corporation and our chamber. You know, again, think about partners, and when you're looking at engaging employers, who better than to look to than both of these entities. So we then looked at those kind of week 2 career connected learning, work-based learning experiences. And we reached out to the Career Link, because the Career Link has a very active program with their you know, their youth programs. And again, talk about an aha moment. So many educators said, we didn't even know about a Career Link, and look at these programs that how you can come into schools and help us support career readiness. So that was a really strong session. And Debbie brought along with her a very engaging CEO from Vigon International, large manufacturing company. And he talked about, you know, kind of the experience that he can provide for students and what they're looking for, you know, how students should prepare. So it was, again, another win-win week. We then brought in, asked Dennis to come in from MCTI, and one of our largest employers in that area is Tobyhanna Army Depot. And people drive by and they don't even know what's inside of that place. So Dennis was able to talk about how his programs are, you know, are providing that education and training for students to look at potential careers at Tobyhanna. So again, I can't tell you how rich each one of those sessions were. We really actually needed probably 2 to 3 hours for each of these. Weeks 4, we focused on health and science. Again, look who's sitting at the table. We have our CEO from St. Luke's. We brought in, we have 2 hospitals and wonderful hospital systems in Monroe County, Lehigh Valley Health Network, Pocono, and also St. Luke's. And they really did a really bang up job about talking about the needs, you know, everything from EMTs, you know, to RNs, and then talked about the opportunities. Examples, St. Luke's has a nursing school, working with Northampton Community College, you know, what kind of relationships are already there that many parents aren't even aware of. So week 5, we brought in a kind of a power team here. We brought in human services, business and technology, and, you know, tourism is a foundational industry in Monroe County, the Pocono, heart of the Poconos. And so Chris Barrett came in, and he's the CEO of the Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau, and talked about the wide range of opportunity in the resort field. Angel Pinheiro also sits on our MCPC executive committee. You know, he's got decades of working with the New York City school systems, and is able to really help teachers connect to, you know, again, how do you make those connections with, you know, careers and employment in the technology field. And Tom Grajewski, Vice President of ESSA Bank, he again on our committee talked again about that whole notion of financial services. So again, great program. And we wrapped up week 6 with arts and communication. And we had, you know, our local TV station, our radios, we had our Monroe County's Arts Council, and we did a wrap up and evaluation. So that was the quick view of our 6 weeks. And this time I was going to ask Dennis Verga to talk a little bit about his perspective from being a panel speaker during this program, a member of MCPC, one of the founding members, and the importance of programs like this for our teachers. Dennis, did you want me to just keep sharing the slides, or do you want to share?
Nope, you can. I'll just kind of tell you to move along. I'll go pretty quick, but thanks for joining us, everyone. As Joanne said, my name is Dennis Ware. I'm the director at Monroe Career and Technical Institute. If you don't know where that is, it's probably the Poconos is probably a little bit more relevant to some people. So when Joanne asked me to participate in this event, so we identified when we're looking to grow our school, everybody focuses on, getting the kids in the building, which of course we find important. Of course, parents are important. But about, I don't know, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, we identified teachers and staff members in our sending districts as very important individuals to help us get students here. I mean, if you think about it, outside of their parents and their family, teachers, their English teacher, their history teacher, math teacher, you name it, have probably the most influence on prospective students for a career and tech school. So in 2018, we actually started something called Spend the Evening at MCTI, which is essentially bringing staff members from our sending districts. We have 4 sending districts to come to MCTI for 3 hours in the evening. And we broke them up in our programs randomly. They weren't able to choose. And basically what they did is they experienced on a smaller scale what our students do. So our teachers and the programs that were assigned gave a small lesson. And then they were given tasks to do. So for example, in masonry, they actually had to build a wall with block and brick. In plumbing, they were taught to solder. Obviously not well, but they were shown the skill set. And we had, and because it was random, we had non-traditional or male teachers in our Cosmo program trying to do Cosmo skills. So it really gave the teachers at the sending districts a different perspective of what their students do here at MCTI. So what I'm going to show you real quick, and like I said, I'll go pretty quick. I'm not going to go every slide, but these are the slides actually that we presented, or I presented to the teachers in the workforce that Joanne put together. And it really was a great idea because of COVID, we cannot do or could not do Spend the Evening at MCTI. As a matter of fact, this year we had to put it off as well. It's now a contractual night for our teachers to have every year. So we still wanted to have that relationship and information session with teachers in our districts. And so when I was asked to present, essentially what I did is I wanted to steer the presentation in a way that was both informational and also kind of give them an idea of what a career and tech school actually does and kind of defeat some of the stigmas that we all face. So again, that's just background on our school. Joanne, if you can go to the next slide, we don't have to go over that. One thing I do stress is our enrollment. So our enrollment, I think the teachers at the sending districts need to do that. I'm a former academic teacher. Now, granted, I was always in a career and tech school my entire career. So, but a lot of the teachers tend to, in our traditional school, they've been there from college and they haven't really experienced industry or definitely the career and tech setting. So it's important to show in our case that we continue to grow. So we have more and more students coming to Monroe Career and Technical Institute, and the staff at the sending districts need to see that. So you can see that growth that we've had, and I showed them this. And then on the next slide, it's probably more important, and just a little tip for those of you who are into enrollment numbers like everybody, like I am. What this number presents is how many eligible students. So we serve grades 9 through 12. We actually have a full day 9th grade program here. It's a little unique. But these are the eligible students in Monroe County. So I showed you that our enrollment's going up, but more importantly, the percentage of kids in grades 9 through 12 in Monroe County, we can just continue to climb. Monroe County is declining for our traditional high school enrollment, but our numbers are going up. So that's something that the sending school staff, whether it be counselors, now we have counselor meetings here, but more so the teachers, the classroom teachers, see that the growth of CTC and the relevance of CTC is continuing to grow, so they can start, if they identify a kid who may have a strength in something or talking about a job, they may remember this presentation and remind them to check out MCTI. So that's kind of the idea behind it. So that's our enrollment numbers. I share that with them. Joanne, you can move to just basic demographics. We don't have to go over that. I mean, I will tell you, so you have to be positive when you're trying to get support, as all of you know. So one stigma that I do have a district, like all of you probably do, I have one district where they're not as open to career and tech ed. And I will tell you, just a little side note, that the principal of the high school was asked why their enrollment wasn't very good. And his answer was, "This is because MCTI does not accept special ed students." And as you can see, and probably like many of the CTC staff members in this presentation, our special ed numbers are around 30%, which is obviously higher than the school district. So I just want them to know, the teachers that is in the districts, to know the truth behind the enrollment here. So any, myth that we don't accept this kid or that kid is not accurate. So I go over the program, or I went over the program with the teachers and the, teacher in the workplace, and we are different. We're task driven, as you guys know. A traditional classroom, if you're a social studies teacher or math teacher, is not exactly the same way. I do go over our program design. So we are technically, it says 3-year program, but it's really a 4-year program because we have a full day 9th grade. And then they have to complete 360 hours per year, as all of you know. So I have to go over that basic stuff just so they know what rules and regulations we have that are a little bit different than a traditional high school. So again, I go over task competency. I'm not going to go over all this, but the one thing I do highlight is a big push, that something I'm passionate about, and we've been working on it in Monroe County. It's going very slow. I'm not gonna lie. Is we firmly believe the work ethic piece in our school, and so we call it professional skills here, not soft skills. We actually developed a certificate based off of this that's sponsored by our chamber or local representatives. And we are working on sending schools to adopt a similar belief in grading and assessing work ethic. I'm sure all of you who talk to industry out there, I hear this, especially now with everything going on in the economy and people not getting anybody to work, is the professional skills or work ethic that people have. So we take that very important, and we're trying to work with our sending schools to actually adopt that into their assessment and grading and curriculum. So it's not just MCTI students getting it. So we stress that, and I will tell you, we actually surveyed all the teachers, not all, but surveyed the teachers in Monroe County, and the support is there. It's just trying to get that and adapt it to an academic or traditional mindset. So something I just wanted to point out that I did talk about quite a bit.
And that is a key project for MCPC that Dennis has been leading. Again, an example of how Career and Technology Center, is taking a lead with, supporting, the career readiness in our classrooms.
So, moving on to task list. I don't go over the task list too much, but the other thing, remember, the audience is, traditional academic teachers, and sometimes the stigma for career and tech ed is it's not academic and it doesn't have math standards and all that, and it's not rigorous. Well, I pull up, this is our electrical task list, and I pull up one of the tasks that they have to do, and you can see the formula that students have to learn. And the best thing about career and tech ed, in my view, is the relevancy that kids apply math and English skills. We see it all the time. If I have a carpenter teacher in this session, you probably know this in a painful way. And that's when it comes to tape measures. You have to teach a kid how to read a tape measure when they come to a CTC, when you think they should know that already, because they probably learned it in elementary school, which they probably did. But the reality is it wasn't relevant because they didn't put it into practice. And so what we do at our schools is we take that academic mindset and we put it into relevancy into practice. So highlighting that to show that our kids still have that rigorous content that they have to learn. And Joanne already talked about it, but we work very closely with our industry. I mean, our OACs here are pretty large. In Monroe County, if you're not familiar with it, we don't have a ton of industry per se, but we have a lot of smaller representatives. We do have obviously our resorts that everybody knows about that we work closely with. But all in all, we have a 250 employers that we work with. And we're trying to meet their demands. So again, as a former academic teacher, that's usually not on your mindset. You're so worried about getting your curriculum across. For me, it was making sure kids knew, about World War II. But there was really no end game in that. Now the end game for our teachers here in a career and tech school is to prepare them for industry or post-secondary. And you guys can read all this. This is information for them. But the one thing I do want to highlight that I think is very important for career and tech schools. And I know I saw Dr. Davis on the attendance or participant list when we're talking about trying to recruit and enhance CTC in Pennsylvania. Post-secondary credits, I think, are huge, because I still tell you the old stigma or the old saying of, well, not every student isn't made to go to college, so the career and tech schools are great. Okay, so there might be some truth to that. But career and tech should not be an ultimatum that you can't go to college. And all of you know this, but all of our programs have, every single one of our programs have articulate college credits. Our computer networking and security has upwards of 30 college credits that they can earn leaving here. So I stress that to this audience of teachers who may, just for no fault of their own, may not realize that that's an option for our career and tech students. So, if there's one thing I will leave you with, if you guys talk about career and tech schools when you're talking to colleagues, is making sure that just because you go to a CTC does not rule you out of going to college. And I think that needs to be spread. So we highlighted that heavily when we talked to these teachers.
Thank you, Dennis. And, probably your session was the one that, remember how many questions we had afterwards. And, some of the teachers were familiar with MCTI through their own children, perhaps, but it was really eye-opening. And I think was just a key part of this whole virtual model. So we really appreciated Dennis's participation. So that's kind of how we did the 6-week teacher session. And then we actually received, again, through the workforce development entity, the Career Link in Monroe County received a $100,000 grant for us to create an internship model in our 6 county high schools. 2 of our districts have 2 high schools. And I think probably one of the best days in my career was the kickoff of the internship program right before COVID, when we had, over 100 sophomore students interacting with over 50 employers by career pathway. So we were really very excited about the model. And our plan had been from the fall, when we had that kickoff, that in the spring, the students would be doing some some site tours, site tours of the businesses they had interacted with, leading up to some mock interviews, resume writing, and actually internships in the summer of 2020. Again, we had to shift due to the virtual model. And so what we did was we just really replicated the teacher model that I just took you through and Dennis took you through, but with a specific pathway focus and really, modified for student interest. So this, the application was put out to all students in the 6 high schools, and between 35 and 40 high school students participated in each of the modules. And, it was our first time, and the feedback we got was, can you do this again? Because the students were like ambassadors. They went back to their high schools and said, hey, this was awesome. And I'll use the example of the young man who signed up for our first module, which was, again, the St. Luke's folks talking about the need for RNs. It was specifically around nursing. And, the kids were very engaged. And he said, I'm going to come to every one of these modules because I realize I don't really know anything about careers. So again, we asked the kids what time of, or I should say students, we asked the students what would work for them time-wise. And they picked Wednesday and Friday from 3:30 to 5:30. And they had 8 total sessions. And the students received, again, because we did have a grant dollars, they received a small monetary compensation for each session they attended, and most students attended all of them. We also recorded the sessions and provided a model, or kind of an optional model, for students who participated in sports or after-school activities, where they could view the video and then complete a related assignment. So Monroe County, wonderful, successful programs we're hoping to replicate. I want to shift now just because of time and go into our Bucks County models. We had 2 or 3 really interesting things happening in Bucks County. The first was the Palisades School District, which they are a member of the Bucks County Career Pathway Partnership. They also received a Teacher in the Workplace grant. They worked with us at NC3T to kind of craft a model. But what they wanted to do was kind of shift it from that 6-week model to a 2-day in service. So they, again, using the partnership as the vehicle, they reached out to identify potential speakers. And Mike Herrera is on today with us, obviously, and he was very helpful in identifying speakers based on his knowledge of employers. And they also, Dr. Holler, leader of the, convener of the Bucks County Career Pathways Partnership, they were able to invite educators from other districts to participate. So this is kind of small, but it's the same kind of overview and goals that we did in the Monroe model. So I'm just going to show you what it looked like in an agenda type slides. So day one, they did kind of that 8:30 to 3. We began just having people talk about their personal career journeys. How did they get where they are and how did they connecting that to what they're doing in the classroom? We looked at, I know many of you know Mark Perna's work with the millennials and C generations. Had a great little breakout session, just kind of set the tone. And then we got into our guest speakers, which included very similar to Monroe, our Bucks County Career Link folks. We then did kind of an aha. We always tried to do a little debrief afterwards because we had the time built in to do that. We then talked about resources connected to the morning session. Oh, I see a little typo there that I'm going to fix. And so they actually went into breakout rooms and completed a chart, which was like, what was your aha? What did you learn from this morning? We took a break, got into healthcare. And again, LBHN and St. Luke's, such great partners. We're able, this time from the Lehigh Valley, we're able to talk to our participants. We brought them back day 2. And again, we looked at, some arts, some engineering. These are their specific pathways in Palisades. So they align their speakers to their specific pathways. Again, they had a local business and industry rep, a little bit of a debrief, educational pathway, global studies. This was really interesting. And I guess I'm kind of proud because one of my former students was able to come in. He does a tremendous amount of work in Africa, the Acumen Corporation. So they also brought alumni in day 2, alumni connected to pathways. And that truly, truly was a powerful connection for their educators. And again, they had roughly, 40-ish, educators, teachers, counselors, et cetera, from their district and beyond. So again, I'll be sending you, I'm going to put this in chat at the end so you can kind of take time and look at it a little more carefully. So Dr. Herrera, Mike Herrera is on. And in addition to helping set up this virtual model, by helping get speakers, he's doing some really kind of unique things with virtually at his school in Upper Bucks. So Mike, do you want to take it for a few minutes and share your screen?
Absolutely. Joanne, would you just mind sharing that next slide, the first one, please?
Absolutely.
While I get set up.
Yep. So Upper Bucks County Technical School, and again, social media, virtual presentations, and really I unfortunately do not tweet. I probably should, but I don't. But I've learned a lot about tweeting from Mike Herrera and the power of doing tweeting and social media to really virtually engage our partners. So he's just going to give you some snapshots of some of the unique things that he's doing in that end of the county.
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning, everyone.
Want me to stop share, Mike?
Yes, that's fine. As Joanne stated, I'd just like to highlight how we use social media, virtual presentations to engage students, parents, our sending school partners, and business and industry. We at Upper Box, we have great business and industry support. Michael Mechanical during the pandemic presented apprenticeship opportunities to our students. Clover Contracting, was very instrumental to maintain that school to work pipeline with our students. Rich Nice, another example. So just wanted to show examples of how even during the pandemic, we use Zoom to reach our students. One of the highlights last year was we created a Careers in Construction Alliance with the Associated Builders and Contractors Eastern chapter, along with 500 regional commercial construction employers and local high schools to promote careers and employment within the construction industry. We used and created a video along with Representative Craig Statz, Danielle Bonner, who sits on the Upper Bucks County Chamber of Commerce, current and alumni students, which we believe was a great way to promote this alliance and our relationship virtually. During the pandemic, our teachers Zoomed in with the local elementary schools to engage them. Safety is always important in career tech ed. Here's Rob Franklin, who's a training director, presenting some safety arc flash presentations to our students. One of our students competed at the Skills USA National Welding Sculpture Competition, and we needed a certified welding inspector. Ken Stockton came all the way from New Jersey, an hour and a half away, and he helped, and this was done virtually, judge the competition. We highlighted virtually women in construction, going back to our partnership with ABC. That was a great way to highlight and promote our non-traditional students. We had our elementary partners come in, and this is a wonderful way to promote career exploration. They came in and created videos, and the footage was used last year as we needed to market, since we didn't have an in-person open house, all of our wonderful programs. And we also did a lot of virtual work. We partnered with the IBEW to offer the interim credentials program. And finally, I'm just looking at the time, one of the areas that we're most proud of is using social media to promote our school to work program. So because of the pandemic, we invited parents to all school to work placements. Little did we know that this would become a best practice. At these meetings, we memorialized these signing days, and it's turned into a best practice. And during the pandemic, to this day, it's a wonderful way to engage our sending schools, highlighting the success of our students entering the workforce. A lot of them will tweet it out and promote it. It's a wonderful way to recognize the mentors and the businesses. And I have to mention that this was, most of this was during the pandemic. We have a very strong school to work program. And if you just look at the faces, and it's very rewarding for us to see that your ultimate goal is to get students in the workplace and advance very, very quickly. So you'll have access to all of the videos, the tweets, and I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Mrs. Reese, our school to work coordinator, who retired after 38 years in education. So again, very proud of the work that she's done. And we believe that this is a best practice. So.
Okay, Mike, you know, I again, having been at your school pre-pandemic and again, working with you with the Bucks County Career Pathways Partnership, just love how you're always thinking outside the box with the social media. So again, a great contact for those of you who don't know Dr. Herrera. You know, if you want to do a follow-up, you'll see in the PowerPoint, we have all the links to, you know, all of the tweets, et cetera, that Mike just shared. Okay, so I'm going to reshare my screen. Get there. Okay, and so, for example, here are the slides that you'll be getting. Oh, let me stop share for a second. I like to, hang on a second. There we go. There we go. So you will be seeing, you know, kind of the links to the information that Mike just shared. And again, all of the interesting things that they're doing with virtual social media. So the last piece of the Bucks County, again, I told you we had a number of unique models, was the actual Bucks County Career Pathways Partnership. The convener for that group is Dr. Rachel Holler at Bucks County Intermediate Unit, really a wonderful, dedicated executive committee, like in our other partnerships. And so they also wanted to run a Teacher in the Workplace virtual academy. So they approached it a little bit differently. And I want to make sure that I'm going to switch screens here so you can actually, that's a hot link that'll take you to their page. And so the link in that PowerPoint actually takes you to their description of their Teacher in the Workplace Virtual Academy. They ran it, they kind of spread it out over the summer, and the focus was on STEM, health sciences, manufacturing, entrepreneurism. You know, again, working with the workforce development, economic development folks, it was, you know, what are the high priorities and topics and themes that they should be running in that academy. So that was very successful again, through Zoom, you know, a number of sessions spread out over the summer versus a 2-day or a 6-week. And again, with teachers, you know, receiving a small stipend. The feedback from teachers was, you know, that it was so valuable, every single one of these academies, that, you know, yes, they received a little bit of, you know, funds that, but really what was important were the connections they were making to the community. So as we kind of wrap up here, I want to get back to, hang on a sec. Like I said, technology, lots of things are open. We know there's a question and answer time that we wanted to build in, but you will also see that in the PowerPoint link, which I'm going to drop in the chat right now, excuse me, you have not only my emails, but Dennis's and Mike. So I'm going to put that in chat right now. And it is, I think I can send to everyone. Here we go. Let's get that done so you have it. There we go. And I think it's about 11. And we just talked to you for a long time. So I'd really like to stop and maybe ask some, Lori, I think you're the facilitator. Is it okay for us to just kind of open it up for questions or comments?
So, Joanne, I'm going to jump in here.
Oh,
yes.
Thanks, Jeanette.
You do have 3 questions in the question and answer box.
Okay.
Okay. from Beverly. How are you able to help us form partnerships in Northampton County? Like, what does it take to do that?
Well, I would say, Beverly, why don't you see my email? Why don't you let's start with that, okay? Because there's some great, I see your second kind of question leading there about, apprenticeships. We can certainly help make some connections for you. So please start with an email to me and I will follow up shortly, if that's okay.
So then Colleen's asking about signing days. Do you have any more information? They're trying to start one in their region.
I'm going to ask Mike or Dennis. I think, Dennis, you probably do that. Mike, do you want to comment on Colleen's question?
Yes, we usually with Skills USA, we work very closely with them. They help organize that. Last year, we had a signing day up in Pittsburgh with Jerome Bettis. One of our students participated in that. So I think in terms of planning and promotion, there's a lot of work to do that. In my presentation, I mentioned that, the term signing day, that's on a much smaller scale. Again, just the students getting their co-op job or their first position, which we believe is important, but it depends on the scale that you want to accomplish that. But if you email me, I could send you some more specific ideas.
Yeah, and I'd like
to add to, that's when I add to Michael's. So Colleen, so we are kind of unique in our area. Michael's actually part of it. We have a district council for Skills USA. It features MCTI, Upper Bucks, CIT, LCTI, and Bethlehem Votech. And it's actually a separate organization where they run our signing day. So what we do in a non-COVID year, and I think it'll happen this year, any student who's a senior who has signed an employment, basically going to work after their senior year, we bring their employer, the student, and we celebrate them and have them sign, just like you would see essentially they do things for college athletes, people signing on to a college. So it's actually, it's organized by our Skills USA Council, and we include all the schools on the council or in our district.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that also, Colleen, and I'm looking for this as we're speaking, but some of the work that we're doing through the Bureau of Career and Technical Education is we identify best practices, and we write them up as profiles on the PACTA CTE resources. And I think it was I know Alice Davis is on because she participated in a panel of the last live panel we had on best practices. And I believe it was Reading Muhlenberg, but I'll get it. But the director at the time made like a big deal about signing day and actually had a gift card raffle if students would tweet, again, when they got their signing day letter, if they would tweet like, hashtag, I'm a CTC student now at Reading Muhlenberg. And they got in just a $25 gift card raffle, and he said it was wildly successful. So I'm looking for that now to see if I can give you the link to that best practice. Jeanette, I saw a question in chat, I believe.
Yep, I was going to say, so, it's that old question we always get about how do you sustain after the grant funds are gone? How are you going to continue paying teachers and students for participating, or what's the thought about how that next step will happen?
Yeah, we actually, sustainability is, you're right, Jeanette, that's always the question. So, prior to this particular model, teachers had participated in some different kind of programs for not money, but for Act 48 hours. We did survey teachers and ask, if this were available, and that we didn't have a grant dollar. And there was quite a positive feedback that, if they were getting Act 48 hours, that would be an option, or if it could be somehow linked into their district in-service programs. And we have all 4 districts in the Career and Technology Center at our, our executive committee. And I think, Dennis, you said that's now the visits to MTCI, that's built in, am I right, in some of the?
Yeah. So yeah, actually to answer that, that's a good question. We were concerned about too, because when we first did our spend the evening at MCTI, which was pre-COVID, we did also pay the teacher. It was much smaller than the 525. It was like $50 to come here. We fed them, and we gave back 48. So when we did a follow-up survey to the district staff who participated, and to be honest with you, they didn't care about the money. Act 48 was a draw, and just coming here and we had our kids feed them and everything else. So yeah, so it's built into our contract here now as an evening activity for our teachers, because one of the challenges you may have is getting your teachers to buy in. So it's a contractual night, and our teachers loved it. So it is built into the contract, and we're hoping either in the spring, if things lighten up with COVID, to launch our spend the evening.
In regard to students, again, that's, we're kind of a work in progress with that, but the conversations that we've been having is, why can't we be having these sessions either recorded or live in our classrooms? So how relevant would it be for if a teacher's AP Bio or something is talking about an infectious disease, and they have, panels of, technicians or docs, either zooming in or whatever. And there's real willingness on part of our business and industry and community partners. So that's where we're going with it. And I'm pretty positive, as Dennis just explained, that if there's a will, there's a way.
So Joanne, have you tried or thought about doing any virtual reality simulations as an instructional tool, or has that been discussed at all?
Well, I will say not from my perspective as working with a coach, in Pathways. I will say I'm going to probably defer to Michael and Dennis again. I am aware of some of those things happening, but that's not my area of expertise. So Michael or Dennis, any?
Yes, Joanne, it's Mike. We had zSpace come out. They've partnered with NOCTI in terms of some credentials with virtual reality. We were very happy with some of their products. We had them meet with our instructors after school. So we believe that that's a great idea, and we're exploring that.
Okay.
Well, that's going to be exciting. I think that's like a wonderful look to the future on how to get reality and engaging things into the classroom from our business partners. So do we have any other questions? Joanne, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I just, I just am so excited that we had so many people attend and so many partners who, are doing great things to, to support our students in their career readiness journey. And that we do hope you reach out if you'd like additional information. And, that we're here to help, right? So we thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Jeanette and Lori, for facilitating.